Hey, Gabriel, welcome to the show. Happy to have you here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Super excited as we were able to have a discussion a couple weeks ago, just regular networking talk, and realized you would be perfect coming onto the show because of your background. So, I'd love to hear a little bit about your background, profession, and how you got started in real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not traditionally trained in financial stuff. I was medically trained and I worked in orthopedics for the last 15 years. Fortunately, I had the benefit of working with somebody who was very entrepreneurial and started investing. And I just rode those coattails and learned from him and started investing along the side with him. And that has just turned into a huge passive income portfolio for me and allowed me to retire from medicine. So now what we do is we try to work with other medical professionals to help give them those same options for financial freedom.
That is excellent. Turn from medical professional over to being able to create wealth for the long term. So take me back to those initial phases when you first were introduced about how to invest in real estate by perhaps like your mentor. What were some initial maybe reservations you had or thoughts on jumping into this?
Yeah, great question. Really, it kind of boils down to I just didn't know what I didn't know. I was very scared about, could I trust whoever I was giving my money to? Really, I didn't know how any of the investments worked, and so I was just blindly following what people did. And so I tried to do my own research, reading books, following different influencers or gurus and just try to get as much information as I could. And I found my financial mentor, also one of my practice partners, was very intentional about his process of due diligence and extremely analytical. And I really aligned with that. I really appreciated that systematic approach where you just kind of remove the emotional aspect of it. And if you follow the checklist that's repeatable and reproducible every single time, then your chances of getting into a good investment with minimal risk are increased. And so I just follow the process, and that gave me the confidence to just keep moving forward. Plus, that first investment I did, seeing those little monthly checks come in was really inspiring. And so I just kept adding to it.
That is excellent. And I love systems more than anyone else. But before we dive into the systems that you use, would love to hear you kind of detail a little bit about your first deal and what your portfolio looks like today.
Yeah, I'm happy to share. So my first deal, and everybody's first deal is probably, their maybe their favorite, or at least it was for me. Uh, well, I'll tell you this, my first deal for passive income is my favorite because that was that first deal where I started getting little monthly checks. And then all of a sudden at the end of the term, I got this huge check and I was thought, I'm in love with this. I'm going to really direct all my attention to this. So I didn't start off with a lot of money, and I don't know if any of your listeners are in the same position, but I didn't have a lot of money to start off with. And so I saved a little bit as I went, and then I put $50,000 into an investment. And I had a sleepless night about it because, that $50,000 was a lot of money. It still
Yeah.
is a lot of money to a lot of people. And about 18 months later, that had turned into a little bit over $120,000. And that was the big check that I got. And I thought, this is remarkable. I mean, all along the way, I was getting little checks of $600 to $700 a month of cash flow, which was fine. But getting that big check was really eye-opening. And on top of all that, the tax benefits of being in that investment was amazing, and it just opened this door of possibilities where I was able to generate so much more income and reduce my tax basis. I thought this is the best secret of the world. And so I really dove headfirst into that at that point. I rolled that initial profit into two new investments because I'd also been saving along the way. And so I was able to do two more investments, and it just snowballed from there. I had a very well, I had a good paying job from a W-2 perspective that I was able to create some nice W-2 income, which helped fund my investments. And but my tax basis with that good income was pretty high. the passive income that I was receiving with those tax incentives lowered my tax basis significantly. So almost into the single digits
Uh,
my first year, and thought, again, this is the best trick. It just follow the rules of the IRS and you'll win. So it's kind of just knowing the rules of the game. I'll say that was my favorite deal.
Yeah, it got you your foot into the door,
Mhm.
seeing the power of real estate, being able to reduce your taxes as well, have more money in your pocket. And what type of property was it and where was it located?
It was a multifamily real estate deal. It was an apartment complex. There were about 100 units. It was I don't want to say mom and pop, but it was a family-owned apartment complex in Albuquerque, New Mexico. A beautiful view of the mountains and everything. And it was very well maintained. They were just looking to exit from their family portfolio, and we were able to acquire it at a discount, which I also love, is getting it at a discount, and it was already cash flowing. We upgraded the units and brought it up to market rate, and it just cash flowed more. And we did have the benefit of an up market the last 10 years or so. And so, again, benefiting from that, it increased our multiple and it really accelerated the process. So, those are kind of the nuances of the deal. But yeah, it was just a win all the way around.
Excellent. So you're able to add value, be able to even possibly charge more for rent, have more cash flow. But Gabriel, you're someone who is working full time,
Right.
probably not able to be handy on site. So how are you able to renovate some of these
Yeah.
units?
That's a great question. I love this. So it all boils down to leverage. And when you're getting into something like this, you leverage your network connections, you leverage your financial connections, leverage your intellectual connections. People will know more than you, people will do more than you, and people will have more than you. But you can align yourself with the people that are doing the stuff and are succeeding in it. And really, you don't have to put full-time effort into it. You just got to bring some sort of capital to the table, whether it's your sweat, whether you're working the deal, or whether you're bringing money to the deal. And so for that first deal, I just brought a little bit of money. I didn't know anything about any of this stuff, but I really got a taste of it. And then that's when I really dove into it. And I've had some lessons along the way, but really getting into it, that was the first start. You just got to use that word leverage. I think that's the key.
Definitely. I love that. Being able to utilize your network.
Hmm.
One of the biggest things that I hear newbies say is, how am I going to be able to do this all on my own?
Hmm.
When in fact, when it comes to running any business, which real estate is a business, you need to be able to leverage different skill sets, different people to help bring everything together. And I think it's excellent that you were able to recognize that from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's folks like you and I that really we want other people involved, and we're so willing to help other people. People who may be new to your podcast now. I mean, absolutely. All of the amazing stuff that you're doing, you're bringing so much valuable content. You're giving the keys to the kingdom away, basically. You're showing people how to do this, and I really admire and respect what you're doing for that. It's just fantastic. People are willing to help you if you want to learn, and you just have to show the interest. If that's the only message people get from the interview today, that would be the one I'd want them to get. We all want to help you succeed. And it's just you just got to ask.
Exactly. And thank you for those kind words. I
Yeah.
love being able to show processes and how people can actually dive deep into data and be able to analyze their own deals as well. So, with that, would love to transition and hear about how you're able to actually systematize acquiring deals and maintaining them.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I took a lot of what I learned from the medical side of what I did and really keep that analytical approach and just follow the steps. Fortunately, I have a nice team of people that I work with, and we all just follow the same checklist every time we get a deal. And so that way we're always on the same page. You don't have to remember, did I do this? Did I do that? It's
Yeah.
always just on the checklist. And if you stick to your rules, then you'll always win. Now, the deals that you do may not always be as successful as you would like for them to be. But again, if you stick to your rules, then your chances or your risk is decreased. So, what we do, we get a lot of deal flow just because of the networks that we're involved in. And we have an initial set of criteria that we look at depending upon which member of my team is looking at the deal, and what type of deal it is, whether it's a real estate deal, whether multifamily, industrial, commercial, medical, office, or whether it's like ATMs or self-storage or car washes, something like that, versus an oil and gas deal, venture capital, preferred equity. We've got different specialists that know what to look for in those different fields and sectors to initially screen. Now, we have some preferred deal sponsors that we've worked with in the past that we can trust. They're very clear with their financials, transparent all the way, and really open their books up to you at any time. And I think that's probably the key for any of this success, is having that transparency with your deal sponsor, especially if you're a passive investor. If you're not running the deal yourself, then you need to have a trusted partner that is going to be running the deal. In fact, my due diligence guide, 2/3 of the guide is devoted to vetting the deal sponsor, and only a fraction is just evaluating the deal. Because the deal is just a checklist. You can go down that list and figure out if it fits or not, but you don't do a good deal with a bad sponsor. A good sponsor can take a mediocre deal and make it shine. So you really have to have the trust and the track record of a good sponsor to make the deal go. And that's where we put a lot of our efforts into, is the due diligence side of a deal evaluation. If it's not a deal sponsor that we've done a deal with before, we do a very deep dive into their background. We use a group called VCheck Global. And I loved one of the initial interviews I had with them when I was evaluating background check companies. The rep I was talking to jokingly said, they'll find out if you were smoking under the bleachers when you were in high school. So I love the depths that they go. They'll do FINRA checks to make sure that there weren't any sanctions or other litigious issues in the past, or anything outstanding. They'll also do social media checks to make sure that they're not going to be any red flags with regard to that.
Right.
And they'll just do a variety of other financial checks and make sure that they are who they say they are. The assets that they claim they have are real and exist and are associated. And there are not any hidden entities that may be sheltering anything else that we want to be aware of. So we all like to be on the same page with the deal sponsor. Personally, we all have our own criteria, but one of my specific criteria is I like to know that the deal sponsor also co-invests in the deal. If they're not financially aligned with me as an investor, then I'm less interested in their deal. They could promise me 10x in 2 years, but unless they're putting their own money on the line, I'm a little leery about that. So again, I'm very, very conservative when it comes to underwriting a deal, and very strict when it comes to deal sponsor evaluation. But once they pass my initial criteria and we go through the deep dive and they're all clear, then I'm much more confident when it comes to evaluating the deal and moving forward.
Got it. Thank you so much for that. I've never even heard of deal sponsor before this. I guess me playing more in the residential space,
Mhm.
maybe something that's kind of similar is like a property manager, how I would screen them if
Right.
it's like out of state, going through a lot of different criteria. As initially, when I first would look at property managers, I would just look at Yelp and who had the highest review,
Yeah.
quick call, and okay, we're good to go, which that could go wrong in many different ways. So I love to hear that you have such a systematized process going over these deal sponsors. And if you can maybe put simply, like, are these deal sponsors, are they also agents, or what are their specific role that they play?
Great question. A lot of them are general partners in the deal.
Okay.
Some of them have put together syndications in the past, and some of them haven't. Over the last decade, we've seen a lot of people that have gone to a weekend seminar and decide, oh, I want to get into syndications. And so everybody deserves a chance. I want to give everyone a chance to really be successful. But I also want to make sure that if this is their first deal that they're bringing to the group, I want to make sure that they have a team of experienced principals that are also helping them along the way. Because we all have to start somewhere. But again, I want to make sure that the right team is in place to make sure that we're all successful in the deal. And that's really what it boils down to, is having the right experience.
Hmm. Yeah, whether it be the direct person or their team around them, having experience as a whole is very important.
Right.
So there's a statement that you've put out as your mission that I want
Mhm.
to touch on a little bit. And your mission is to help time-strapped professionals in creating wealth through mindful investing.
Right.
You detail a little bit more of what that means to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that our money has a job to do. Instead of us working for money, I want our money to work for us. And you really have to determine what job you want that money to do, whether it is to generate other cash flow or to grow your net worth. And so when you're looking at those things, I think there are basically three functions, whether it's providing some sort of tax protection, or really bringing more cash flow to your pocket, or a combination of those things. Your money has a job to do, and it's not a one size fits all approach. What works for me in my situation may not work for you, or who else, somebody else down the street. Everybody's a little bit different. Because of my medical background, I work with other medical professionals, and the neurosurgeon that's making 400,000 or 500,000 a year may not need the extra cash flow, but is really looking for some sort of tax protection. And so we may be looking for an investment opportunity for them to offset some of those capital, or I'm sorry, the W-2 income, and so that they're able to keep more of that in their pocket, versus someone else where they may be making a good income that's providing them capital to invest, but it's not at that outstanding level where they don't have
Right.
to worry as much about taxes, and so we would put them more into a cash flow type situation. So it's really, again, not a one size fits all solution. So that's where it becomes very mindful. Um, well, I don't want to say hate, but it bothers me when someone says, "Oh, I've got the perfect blueprint, for whatever." And again, it's not a one size fits all. Everybody is a very individualized approach to their portfolio, and that's what I try to do. I do a one-on-one with all of our members to really kind of figure out what their goals are with investing, and what they want to accomplish, and then we look at what we can do to help find them the right solution. Yeah, with all that, there's all sorts of stuff on the back end, whether you're working with somebody to set up an LLC, or other entities to help provide that protection or give you some sort of tax benefit, or even setting up your own qualified retirement plan within your LLC to where you can direct your money the way you want to, instead of riding along with the stock market and getting your
Yeah.
4% per year.
I love that. I love that you mentioned there's not one size fits all, one solution. It's really tailored to each individual based upon their goals, their income, and from there you can best direct them to possibly the right investment strategy. And what I love that we got to speak about beforehand is that it's not just real estate. So
Right.
could you detail a little bit more about what other investment vehicles maybe you've participated in or helped others with?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it really just depends on your risk appetite, of course. One of my favorite initial investments into oil and gas was really eye-opening. There are a lot of incentives to invest in an oil and gas venture. Not only does it produce uh, distributions from royalties from what they produce, but those distributions are significantly discounted because of either intangible drilling costs or other things that can be depreciated. But one of the nice things about an oil and gas investment is your capital that you invest can be written off against your adjusted gross income. And so that lowers your tax basis immediately within the tax year. And again, that was really amazing. So again, a non-traditional investment, but still very interesting with regard to the incentives that it provides and the cash flow, and a potential huge equity multiplier at the end. Oil and gas, interesting. Um, what else? Venture capital. Venture capital is very risky. In all the statistics that you read are true. 1 out of 100 will make it, and the 99% won't. But I like working with particular places called venture studios where they nurture these new developments until they're at a point where they can take off. And that really shows that there's a track record and a need for what they're developing, and there's less risk involved. I'm pretty risk averse. I don't know if you've gotten that already. I'm really conservative with my investment approach. And I absolutely hate losing money, and I hate when other people lose money. And so I want to make sure that we're all kind of aligned on the same path. And so really we are very, very strict when it comes to those, I would say, alternatives to real estate when it comes to investment. I really love real estate. It is an incredible vehicle for investing in a nice conservative pathway to grow your wealth. It also provides amazing tax incentives, and it serves a purpose. And really, you're providing housing for folks,
Yeah,
or something else, and really bringing a lot of value to the community. Real estate is really one of the most amazing vehicles that we have for investment. My particular portfolio is about 60 to 70% real estate. And I do have a small portion in oil and gas, again, a small portion into venture capital, and another small portion into debt, like preferred debt funds. And I also keep a little bit on hand with cash, just because you never know when you're going to need some
yeah,
cash on hand to deploy into something. At least the last couple of years with capital calls and certain investments, I've been very fortunate to not have any capital calls on any of the deals that I've been involved in. But I've
good.
had acquaintances that have, and it can be tough, when you're having to cash push out some money when you're not expecting it.
Definitely. I mean, it's amazing how diversified you are with your investments, but you have a keen eye when it comes to real estate and leveraging it for the right purposes. I love that you mentioned with your conservative level of investing, you try to minimize the risks that you may have. Now, of course, as you go along through your journey, there's always going to be like maybe some hiccups or bumps along the way. What are some maybe learning lessons that you've taken of maybe I need to get out of a deal whenever this part happens? And let me add this to my checklist.
Right. Yeah. Some red flags I've learned along the way. Um, there, you can take, I trust everybody, but I always verify, right? That would is one of the things that I would probably instill on everyone is you can trust what they say, but you have to verify what they say is true. There was a deal that I did in the past, toured a facility, a nice industrial complex, really a fantastic operation. Come to find out, the building that I toured wasn't actually owned by the person raising the money for the deal. And so that was a little bit of a eye-opening experience. Fortunately, we were able to get our capital out, and not have any negative circumstances to that. But
Wow.
that was something that surprised me, and I don't like surprises. I think that as long as I'm prepared to the nth degree going into it, I'll feel confident going forward. I do love financials. I like for people to send me their financial statements all the time so that I can see how well the investment is going along, if it's going along as scheduled, or even if it's not going as predicted, I still like to know so that I can plan for the future. I think information is absolutely key when it comes to all this stuff. And when people are hiding information from you, that again is another indicator to me that something may be a little bit awry, and I want to check into it. And so I personally check in on all of my deal sponsors as I'm going on if I haven't received a financial report when it's supposed to come. But again, it goes back to my systems. Everything has a schedule, and when we do regular monitoring of our investments, we're checking into those deals and making sure that they're performing. I mean, not to mention, you'll need tax statements like K-1s and things like that as things go along. But, we like to see that. Distributions coming into the checking account are always great too. But,
Wow.
all those things, we want to make sure that they're processing the way that they're supposed to.
Excellent. Making sure that you're fully going through your checklist, verifying the things that people are either showing you or actions are taking, which is perfect. And I'd
Yeah.
love to transition over to what do you think is going to occur for the future of real estate? I guess in particular, do you see it still being a worthwhile investment vehicle? Do you see it being more competitive? What are some of your thoughts?
Yeah. Great question. I think now is absolutely a great time to be involved in it. I mean, again, I'm biased because I love how it works for us. You will see in the news where you'll hear multifamily is distressed. And it, there are some distressed owners, but multifamily as a sector is not distressed. Now is a great opportunity to, again, buy at a discount, add value, and then let things cash flow for you. There will be a time where it will end up multiplying for you. Real estate has very interesting cycles. You may have heard the expression, history doesn't always repeat, but it rhymes. And that's a lot what we see with real estate, whether it be multifamily commercial, office, like industrial, really, they all have their own little cycles. And as long as you can recognize where we are in the cycle, you can buy things at a discount when things are at the low end and then ride them up at the top, and then at the top be able to cash out and then roll things back into other investments. It's a fluid process. I mean, it is passive income to a certain degree where you don't have to do anything to manage the investment. All the work is up front where you're
Yeah.
evaluating the deals and making sure that you're on the right path.
And the exciting part also about real estate is, yeah, you do all that upfront work, then you see the benefits come down the line, then you could even recycle that money and use it
Mhm.
for other purposes. So it's not that it just stays there within that investment
Right.
vehicle for like 10 years. There's ways to utilize it.
Absolutely. I love being able to get some of that capital out as we're going and redeploy it. That's another consideration that people should have is opportunity costs when they're looking at different deals. I mean, you may have a deal that you want to get into and it could be producing, but is your money locked in that deal for a long period of time? Can you get your capital out? That's what's so amazing about real estate. There's so many ways that you can pull money out of the deal
Yeah.
and still keep riding it. That's another one of my favorites. Being in a deal, years and years ago, I got involved in a deal where I invested in a multifamily development. It was a ground up development. Um, Again, bought the land. It was an old mechanic like shop, and they cleared the land and then built some apartments along the area. Again, bought the land at a discount, and then within a couple of years, I mean, things had just boomed and it had doubled in value. We were able to pull
Wow.
money out of the project and still get all the cash flow benefits from it, still being 100% equity providers, and then still riding that wave and then selling the project years later. That has been an amazing project. There is so much opportunity in real estate. It's really a phenomenal vehicle for growing your wealth.
Agreed. And what was that moment for you when you stepped away from the medical industry and
Mhm.
decided, you know what, I can go full time into this?
Right. Yeah, that was a really pivotal moment for me. When I first started making enough passive income that it met what I was making as a salary, it did give me some options to say, no, I don't want to take call at the ER, or I don't want to, take calls on the weekend or anything like that. It gave me the options to say no a little bit more. And then really when my passive income exceeded my W-2 income, it really gave me the option to just step away and do work voluntarily medically. I still go back and I volunteer.
Great.
I work for a group, do some work for a group called the Burnout Project. It's local, just helping other physicians to, not have the burnout from having to work, 2,000 hours or whatever a week or, whatever, all
Yeah.
the time, just to give them some options. And so by bringing some education along the board, letting them know that there are other options out there that you can still practice and provide phenomenal care, but you don't have to kill yourself to do it. It's just fantastic. That was the real pivotal moment for me, is still being able to provide optimal care for my patients and be able to generate a income where I didn't have any concerns about finances. Just gave me options, and it's really opened my life to be able to do things that I want to do. And come to find out, I really enjoy doing medical things, and so I do more volunteer work because of it.
That's amazing. I love to hear that. And one of the things people who are also are getting started are like, well, I love my profession
Mhm.
and I don't want to just kind of step away from it entirely. And that's the thing with building passive income. It doesn't mean that you're going to go sit on the beach and have like a mojito every day. It just
Right.
means now you have the options to spend more time with family, go into maybe curriculars you haven't been able to do before, and even still be a part of your field, but just in a different type of bandwidth.
Yeah, 100%. You know, the margaritas on the beach are great for about a week or two, but then I would get absolutely bored doing that.
Yeah,
I really like being able to provide value. That's where I get a lot of satisfaction, is just being able to do that kind of stuff. And if I could help other people generate a 6 to 7 figure income with passively and still have the option to do what they wanted to do, I mean, I feel like I've done my job for the world.
definitely. And for those who want to reach out to you, Gabriel, and maybe get started, what would be some of the steps to take?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to my website. It's intentionalcapitalist.com. And if you wanted to download my free due diligence guide, it's intentionalcapitalist.com/free. And you can read through it. It's about 56 pages. Again, about 2/3 of it is evaluating your deal sponsor. But it is a step-by-step guide. It includes my checklist of what I do every single time when I'm looking at a deal. And it really gives you all the steps that you need to do to be successful in investing. If you wanted a more handheld approach, I do have a private membership where I do offer people one-on-one guidance, a little bit of coaching and education to give them all the tools they need to do really anything they want. As you know, I'm investment agnostic, so I have a lot of different sectors that I look at. But again, we're very conservative with the deals that we look at. Again, there's about 3,000 or so deals that we look at per year, and only 1% make the cut. Don't FOMO into a deal just to be in a deal, right? So let's make some smart decisions, be mindful with your investing, and really be intentional about your wealth creation.
Excellent. Yes, be mindful if you're investing, and we will have those show notes, those links in the show notes after this. So definitely check it out. And Gabriel, really appreciate your time today.
Yep, my pleasure. Anytime.